please take a moment right now to hit like, subscribe, and share.
Especially share. That's the big one.
Hey guys, happy anniversary from Joel Haas here in Minocqua, Wisconsin. I'm here with some of our friends. Well, of course it's Jimmy Stewart here, and I'd like to offer you a hearty happy anniversary. Yeah, and Harvey's here too.
Well, not to be outdone, Cary Grant here, and I'd like to offer you a hearty happy anniversary as well. Judy, which I never said in a movie, by the way. Well, have a great time up there in the north, by Northwest.
Oh, you dirty rats. You tried to have an anniversary and didn't invite your old friend James Cagney. You do that again, it's going to be coitin', see? Because I got a rod in my pocket. It's a curtain rod.
Ah, yes, W.C. Fields here. I was gonna bring the libations for the party, but something happened to the cork. Ah, yes.
Well, it's Sam Spade here, Humphrey Bogart to you. I just wanted to say happy anniversary. I love your show, and I especially love the bumper music, which I understand the girl picked out. So I'll say it. Play it again, Sam.
Hello, film historians. I'm Derek, and I love old movies. We've got Sam the sidekick here.
Hello, and welcome to episode 51, which is our 1-year anniversary episode.
So true. This is because last year, August 4th, 2021, we released our very first episode, Rope of Sand, where we introduced such concepts as the Burt Lancaster paradox.
Who could forget the Burt Lancaster paradox?
Well, not me.
And since then, things have just kept going, with an episode coming out basically every week, from then all the way until now. In fact, even though this is episode 51, we did have a bonus episode back in January, so it really is a 50-second episode. That's why we reached a year.
We want to start off by giving a big shout out to our friend of the show, Joel, for that awesome cold open and first anniversary greeting. It was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Having listeners like you not just enjoying the show, but taking part in it, that's awesome for us.
Yeah.
We really love it, so thanks a lot.
Well, why don't we let them know how they could do that themselves?
Why not indeed?
But we should also mention.
Yes, we absolutely should.
We are going to have a few changes on the show coming up in year 2.
Tell them all about it.
Well, for starters, we're going to be dropping down to bi-weekly episodes. Now, I can hear the groan of disappointment from some of you, but we're finding it increasingly difficult to put out a weekly show. So we don't want the shows to suffer. We want to make them even better than they have been. So we just need a bit more time per episode to do that.
So this is our last weekly show, and going forward from this point, we'll be bi-weekly, with the next episode hitting on August 18th.
We have a lot of other plans for the next year, though. We want to do a lot more collaborations with other podcasters. We want to have more special guests on the show, maybe even in studio, more guest hosts, more everything. It's going to be really great. And we're going to start things off with a bang today.
Since it's our anniversary show, and we can do whatever we want.
Yeah. So Sam and I have decided to take a look at one of our mutually most beloved films of all time.
I've been excited to talk about this movie since we started the show. I can't believe it's taken us this long, but I'm glad we've saved it for such a special occasion.
So today, on our special anniversary episode, we will be taking a look at The Third Man, directed by Carol Reed and starring Joseph Cotten.
Cannot wait.
Yeah.
Let's do business right now so we can get to this film.
After you.
So, business number 1, thanks for being here.
Yep.
Thanks for listening. We love watching these films and chatting about them for you, It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And you know what else? We love hearing from you. So if you ever have like an idea or a thought or a suggestion for us, a film we could cover, or a part of a film you'd like to hear us talk about, let us know.
Also, if you'd like to read a cold open for the podcast, maybe talking about a nostalgic or formative experience you had watching movies, get in touch and let's make that happen right away.
You don't even have to have come from a small town in the Ottawa Valley.
But bonus points if you did.
Always. And then if you're looking for something fun to do right now, or maybe later on the weekend, why not check us out on the socials?
Why not indeed? After all, we are on the Facebook.
I Love Old Movies, the podcast.
The Instagram.
At I Love Old Movies, the podcast.
El Twitter.
At ILOM podcast.
And the good old-fashioned email.
I Love Old Movies, the podcast at gmail.com.
All one word.
And of course, you should also do what all the cool kids do, and you know what I'm going to say, that is pet the rock. And by this we mean head on over to petrockradio.ca to listen to amazing local web-based radio programming. It's got fantastic music, it's got previous episodes of our show, it's got incredible hosts, and we are broadcast once, twice, thrice a week.
Monday and Saturday and Sunday.
Come for the music, stay for the podcasts.
We'll link that for you in the description.
So, are you all ready to head to post-war Vienna to solve the mystery of your best friend's death?
I've got my dime novels and everything. Hit the music. The birthday music.
What?
For the show.
Oh, yeah.
All right, everybody, here comes the cake. Come on, boys. Start playing, darling.
Why am I excited when my heart feels so glad? Everyone's invited for the best time ever had. It's somebody's birthday today. It's somebody's birthday today. The candles are lighted on somebody's cake, and we're all invited for somebody's sake. An old-fashioned table is set for a day that we'll never forget. Happy birthday to you, and many more too, because it's your birthday today.
Our director is Carol Reed. Reed started working as an actor in his late teenage years and closely collaborated with writer Edgar Wallace during the late 1920s. After Wallace's death in 1932, Reed took a job at Associated Talking Pictures under actor, producer, and director Basil Dean, and worked as a dialogue and assistant director. He directed his first solo film, Midshipman Easy, in 1935, and followed soon after with Laburnum Grove in 1936. Both films attracted the attention of writer Graham Greene, who would later be a close collaborator of Reed's. He continued to develop his career with The Stars Look Down and Night Train to Munich, both in 1940. During World War II, Reed served with the Royal Army Ordnance Corps, where he worked with the film unit and made a training film, The New Lot, which was later remade as The Way Ahead. Reed quickly reclaimed his place in the British film industry after the war and released some of his best films, including Odd Man Out in 1947, The Fallen Idol in 1948, and The Third Man in 1949. His next film, Outcast of the Islands from 1951, is generally regarded as the beginning of the end for Reed's career. He worked on fewer and fewer films through the 50s, 60s, and even the 70s, with his last film, Follow Me, being released in 1972. Despite not being very active in his later years, Reed was hired to film a remake of Mutiny on the Bounty in 1962 by MGM, but delays due to weather and disputes over creative control with Marlon Brando eventually led to Reed withdrawing from the production. Ending his career with 35 directing credits, Reed died in 1976 at the age of 69.
The writer is Graham Greene. After graduating from Oxford in 1925, Greene spent a few years working as a journalist for various newspapers. He published his first novel in 1929, called The Man Within, which led him to work full-time as a novelist. He wrote a few more novels over the next few years, but his first successful book was Stamboul Train, which was adapted into the film Orient Express, 1934. Greene continued to write many more stories that were adapted for the screen, including The Man Within, 1947, Brighton Rock, 1948, and The Fallen Idol in 1948, which was followed by what was undoubtedly the height of his film career with his work on The Third Man in 1949. After that, his film career started to dwindle out, and Greene didn't end up working on many more films. The rest of his career was mostly spent on writing novels, stories that were eventually adapted for the screen, plays, and episodes of television series, such as Shades of Green and The Istanbul Train. Ending his career with 91 writing credits, Greene died in 1991 at the age of 86.
Starring as Holly Martins, the down-on-his-luck novelist is Joseph Cotten. A former professional football player and part-time model, it was an exceptional stage career and a friendship with Orson Welles that led Joseph Cotten to become one of the top screen stars of the 1940s. Cotten made his Broadway debut in 1932 in Absent Friends, but it was in 1934 when he met Orson Welles and became one of the founding members of the Mercury Theatre that his fortunes truly began to change. Welles might not have thought that Cotten had what it took to become a great actor, but he knew star quality when he saw it. After working with Mercury on some of their productions, Cotten returned to Broadway to star in the Philadelphia Story with Katharine Hepburn. But when it came time to make the film version, although he went to Hollywood, the film was cast with Cary Grant. His agent recommended he look up his old friend Orson Welles at this point, who was beginning to make waves and had acquired a very interesting two-picture deal with RKO. The first picture in that deal, of course, was Citizen Kane, which was cast entirely with Mercury Theatre performers, giving Cotten the role of Jedediah Leland. This was the first of 3 films that the two men made together, along with The Magnificent Ambersons and Journey into Fear. Those 3 films established Cotten as an in-demand leading actor, who was then cast by Alfred Hitchcock to appear in Shadow of a Doubt, starred along with Ingrid Bergman in Gaslight, and with Gregory Peck in A Duel in the Sun. Cotten could play a hero or a villain, and was always in demand in the 40s. At the end of the decade, he was cast in The Third Man, reuniting him with Welles and giving him another classic film on his resume. After that, he made Niagara with a young Marilyn Monroe, before returning to Broadway in the original stage production of Sabrina. Throughout the 60s and 70s, he continued working, appearing in increasingly less prestigious and more cheaply made productions. As Cotten himself said, "I was in a lot of junk." Cotten had an incredible career, despite never truly being seen as a very top star, but I think he summed up his film work best when he said, "Orson Welles lists Citizen Kane as his best film. Alfred Hitchcock opts for Shadow of a Doubt, and Sir Carol Reed chose The Third Man. And I'm in all of them." Joseph Cotten died in 1994 at the age of 88.
In a perfectly on-brand supporting role as Major Calloway is Trevor Howard. Trevor Howard enjoyed a successful and distinguished career in film, television, and on stage. Voted the best actor in his high school class was a sign of things to come for Howard, but his acting career was interrupted by World War II, and this is where his story gets interesting. Howard became known for having a very successful military career, full of distinguished heroism, serving as a captain in the Signal Corps. However, documents revealed after his death by the British government showed that Howard never achieved rank past second lieutenant and was discharged from the military in 1943 for having psychopathic tendencies. At the time, though, his reputation was very strong, and Howard was able to turn that into a career working on stage in plays such as The Recruiting Officer, A Soldier for Christmas, and Eugene O'Neill's Anna Christie. After that, he started making films, very quickly receiving his first credit with The Way to the Stars in 1945. Later that year, the film Brief Encounter cemented his star status among British film actors, and from then on he was steadily in work until he was cast in The Third Man. He considered this film the best of his career, and the one of which he was most proud. Howard made a few films with Carol Reed and was in several films that had Graham Greene scripts before moving to Hollywood in 1956 to make films such as Run for the Sun and Around the World in 80 Days. In 1962, he appeared as Captain Bligh opposite Marlon Brando in Mutiny on the Bounty. He appeared in several war films in the 1960s, such as Father Goose with Cary Grant and Von Ryan's Express with Frank Sinatra. He worked steadily through the 70s and into the 80s, with one of his most interesting roles perhaps being a member of the Kryptonian Council at the beginning of the 1978 Superman. Howard appeared in the television film Shaka Zulu, which will certainly impress my Gumpy, who loves the Zulu movies. Howard was not particularly known as a television actor, but he did, however, have an obligatory appearance on an episode of Love Boat. An actor who excelled as a lead, as a support, or in character roles, and a one-time Oscar nominee for Best Actor, Trevor Howard died in 1988 at the age of 74.
In the late 1940s, the top film producer in England was Alexander Korda. Reuniting his creative team from a film called The Fallen Idol, Korda had cause to be excited, bringing director Carol Reed and writer Graham Greene back together, who were known to work well and have mutual respect. The new film project was being co-produced by David O. Selznick and was to have major distribution in the United States. The stakes were very high. Greene was writing The Third Man as a novella that was based heavily on experiences he had while in the intelligence service, but he adapted it to a screenplay, his first original one. Carol Reed originally wanted James Stewart to play the role of Holly Martins, but Selznick insisted on Joseph Cotten, whom he had under contract. And it was Cotton's direct connection through the Mercury Theatre to Orson Welles that brought him into the film. Welles has only a small supporting role, with less than 5 minutes of screen time, and all his filming was done in less than a week. But in that brief amount of time, Welles proved to be very difficult to work with. He was frequently late to set, and especially did not like the idea of shooting scenes in the sewers. He was somewhat of a germaphobe, and he was quite concerned about catching a virus or a bacteria and making himself very ill. And for the scenes shot in the Vienna sewers, a body double was used. And then a replica of the sewer system was built on a soundstage in London, and this is where Welles filmed most of his scenes from the end of the film. Welles was paid a flat rate for his appearance in the movie, and he regretted that, later wishing he had taken the percentage of the film they had offered him, since the movie became a massive financial hit.
For his part, Welles considered Harry Lime the role of a lifetime. For an hour, everyone talks about his character, for him only to turn up briefly at the end.
Interestingly, given the casting of Cotton and Welles and the use of odd angles in the cinematography that was very reminiscent of Citizen Kane, people naturally assumed that Orson Welles was much more involved in the production than he was. Some people even think he directed the film. Of course, he did not, and in reality he had very little to do with the production at all. In fact, his only major artistic contribution to the film, aside from his performance, was his ad-libbed speech that ended with the line of the cuckoo clock. Carol Reed drew from several influences in the film, emulating the work of directors like Rossellini and De Sica, injecting a neo-realist perspective into the film, casting local non-actors to fill small roles and having people speak their natural languages without subtitles. He also wanted the film to have a strong noir aesthetic, with liberal use of shadows and lighting and moodiness. Because the film had to be completed before snow came, Reed had to work much more quickly than he was accustomed to, and that meant using a daytime unit and a nighttime unit, and even a unit dedicated to working in the sewers. And for his own part, with almost around-the-clock work, Reed relied heavily on Benzedrines.
Hey, make a great movie, get a bit of drug addiction, it all balances out.
Greene had been hopeful that the optimistic ending that was part of his novella would be used in the film, and he was quite upset that Anna and Holly did not clearly get together. But upon viewing the film repeatedly, and in years to come, he realized that Reed's perspective on the relationship between those two characters was spot on, and in fact, that was the story that should have been told all along.
Okay, what's the deal with the music in this movie? There's nothing like it.
So, another interesting aspect of this film is the inclusion of the zither music that forms the film score. Anton Karas was an unknown musician and composer who wound up performing at one of the production parties one night, and Carol Reed was so entranced with the music that he played, he hired him on the spot to create a score for the film that would feature only the zither, and the popularity of the film and the accompanying soundtrack album led to Karas becoming a music star. In fact, he was able to open his own nightclub in Vienna where he performed on his zither for the rest of his days. He called it The Third Man.
And was the film a hit?
Oh, I'll say. A massive success, both artistically and commercially. The Third Man was almost immediately held in high esteem. It received multiple award wins and nominations, did very well financially both in America and England, and no less an authority than Roger Ebert said of it. Of all the movies I've seen, this one most completely embodies the romance of going to the movies. What's the tail of the tape on this one, Sam?
Okay, so we have an 8.1 on IMDb.
Mm-hmm.
The audience score is 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, and the tomato meter is 99%.
There we are.
The film won the Oscar for Best Cinematography and was nominated for Academy Awards for Best Directing and Film Editing. And the film can be rented on Amazon Prime Video or found at your local secondhand DVD shop.
American pulp western novelist Holly Martins has come to post-war Vienna. His old friend Harry Lime has summoned him over with promises of profitable work opportunities. Problem is, Holly arrives just in time to find out that Harry is dead.
Martins meets Major Calloway and Sergeant Payne, who suggest that Harry was not a good guy. But it's when he meets Harry's friends Baron Kurtz and Popescu that Holly begins to think there might be some mystery to Harry's death.
When Holly meets Anna, Harry's girlfriend, his suspicions are further raised, prompting him to investigate the death himself. And what he's learned is that Kurtz and Popescu were there when Harry died, as well as a third man who helped carry the body off the road. The porter at Harry's building offers to share more information that the police don't have, but he's killed before Holly can talk to him.
Convinced that his friend must have been murdered, Holly returns to Calloway, wanting a proper investigation. Calloway explains that Harry was a terrible racketeer, specializing in a penicillin smuggling scam that has left many dead or suffering greatly from illness that the tainted penicillin could not treat.
Holly is shaken by this news and plans to leave Vienna, but he goes to visit Anna again. And as he leaves, he notices a suspicious, shadowy figure skulking in a doorway. A chance burst of light illuminates the face of the figure, revealing it to be Harry Lime. Martins tells Calloway this, and they dig up Harry's grave, finding the body of another man in it, one of Harry's accomplices in the penicillin scam.
And while all this is going on, Anna's papers are found to be forged, and as a Czechoslovakian, the Russian police want to deport her back behind the Iron Curtain. Calloway wants to help her and will trade information for consideration, but she either doesn't know anything or won't tell.
Martins and Lime meet and ride a Ferris wheel together. Lime reveals himself to be opportunistic and sociopathic, and valuing profit above life. Holly is very upset by this and wants no part of the job offer Harry extends. Harry threatens Holly, suggesting he could kill him and no one would know or care. But he quickly corrects himself, saying he has no intention of harming his friend.
Harry leaves, giving Holly something to think about. The profitability of ruthlessness and cruelty versus the complacency and stagnation of peacefulness. It's a powerful moment and a wonderful line delivered by an actor clearly dedicated to knocking it out of the park.
That Ferris wheel scene is the best one in the movie, easily.
It's one of the best scenes in film history. I'm calling it.
You love it.
So much!
Holly finds his resolve and offers to Calloway that he will help in the capture of Harry Lime in exchange for Anna's safe passage out of Vienna. Calloway arranges this, and she is put on a train headed west, but she sees Martins at the station, gets suspicious and confronts him, and once she finds out that he's agreed to sell out Harry with her as the price tag, she refuses to get on the train.
Her priorities are pretty messed up, but she's one heck of a loyal girlfriend.
Yeah, no kidding.
Holly knows he's doing the right thing, and he sets up a meeting with Harry at a cafe. But Anna warns him that the police are coming. Harry flees to the sewers, but he's surrounded on all sides, and escape seems impossible. He shoots and kills Sergeant Payne before Calloway wounds him. Lime crawls away, pursued by Holly, who's taken Payne's pistol.
The two former friends confront each other, and without a word, Harry acknowledges his fate with a nod of his head, giving Holly permission, even encouragement, to shoot. We hear a pistol shot echo through the sewers, and next we see Harry's second funeral.
Calloway takes Holly to the airport to leave Vienna, but he gets out of the jeep to speak to Anna, his own feelings for her quite strong. It's not clear what he wants here, to apologize, to make amends, to have a future with her, but she brushes past him in the coldest way possible, not even remotely acknowledging his existence.
The end.
This film. I love it. Spoiler alert on the watch recommendation for everyone. I love this film. Like, when we say I love old movies around here, films like this are exactly what we mean.
It's so good.
Let's pro and con this guy.
Okay, so as always, we don't actually rate films here on the show. There are no stars or thumbs. We just tell you some things we liked.
Some things we didn't.
And then we recommend whether or not you might enjoy giving this one a watch.
Take it away.
My pros. Number 1, the introduction voiceover. Voiceovers can be dicey in movies. Sometimes they try to do too much, other times not enough, and they can be a distraction when done poorly. But this is not done poorly at all, rather quite perfectly. The narrator voice comes in fast and hard, talking to the audience in a matter-of-fact and conversational manner, dropping a lot of information on the viewer in an organized, concise, entertaining, and effective way. I don't tend to love narration in films, but this is such a good example of how to do it right that I wish there was more of it. And believe me, that's saying something. Interestingly, the film had 2 different narrator voices, depending on if you saw the film in England or in the US. The Hollywood release had Joseph Cotten doing the voiceover, but the British version, now considered the definitive version of the film, features the voice of director Carol Reed. Number 2, the performance of Holly Martins by Joseph Cotten. He goes from an eager and enthusiastic stranger in a strange land, all running upstairs and big energy, and at the end he's frustrated, tired, utterly spent, the victim of his own quest for the truth. That Holly somehow has the misguided optimism to envision a future for himself and Anna is its own tragedy. The poor deluded man somehow believing he will get the girl like a character in his own dime novels, ignoring the fact that she loved his best friend, not him. Never him. The tragic arc of Holly, a character for whom things only ever get worse, was brought to life achingly by Joseph Cotten, his laconic and drawled delivery and tired, glassy eyes, utterly perfect for the role. Number 3. There are 2 truly great character introduction moments in cinema, in my mind. One is the arrival of Darth Vader onto the main deck of the Tantive 4 in Star Wars A New Hope. The other is the peerless introduction of Harry Lime. Almost every character in this film, in almost every scene, is talking about Harry Lime in one way or another. We feel we know the character from all angles as the film progresses, as we learn of him from those who hunted him, hated him, and even loved him. But we are resigned to not have him, until all of a sudden he's there. The moment tipped off by the affections of a cat, and then a chance light coming on illuminating his face and showing us his magnificent smirk. Harry Lime is alive, and all of a sudden the movie we are watching isn't the movie we thought we were watching. It's incredible. Number 4, the cinematography in this film is fantastic. Interesting angles, beautifully cluttered with so much to look at. The expressionist camera style used by Robert Krasker ensures that this film is never dull to look at. This film won the Oscar for cinematography, and it's not hard to see why. Without ever seeming showy or tricky, this film is very showy and very tricky, and it's a joy to just look at. With brilliant set pieces like the bombed-out streets of Vienna, the labyrinthine sewer system, the picturesque Ferris wheel, or the cemetery road, this film is incredible to look at. Number 5. This is unprecedented. Number 5. I've got 6.
Oh boy.
Number 5, the pacing in this film is just great. It's bang, bang, bang right off the bat, slows down just enough to let everything sink in, and then it becomes a full-out emotional avalanche of narrative once Harry's introduced. And number 6, Orson Welles' Harry Lime turns in the greatest supporting role of his career, in my opinion. The scene on the Ferris wheel could go on forever for me. Welles is at the very height of his power as an actor here and threatens to blow Joseph Cotten clear off the screen. But he never goes over the top. He never gets too emotive. He just delivers his lines perfectly, with friendliness and menace, and with more character building in 5 minutes than most actors can manage in 2 hours. Welles was a magnificent talent, and if you have never seen him in this, you are missing out. Full stop. My cons: the iconic zither music, composed and performed by Anton Karas. It is wonderfully atmospheric, yes, but perhaps not entirely the right atmosphere. And not so much of it. There's just too much of the theme and not enough of anything else. And while I cannot deny the identifiable and iconic nature of the score, it just doesn't always seem to fit the movie in terms of mood. And at times, it actually feels in the way. The Third Man is an incredible murder mystery, crime story, and tale of loyalty and love. Hawley is caught up in the mystery of his best friend's death and inserts himself deeply into the narrative, attempting to solve this mystery and putting himself on a collision course with realities he would prefer not to come to grips with. Along the way, he encounters foreign agents from multiple nations, the personal and professional friends of his friend, some rabid James Joyce fans, and is taken for a murderer himself while possibly falling in love with his dead friend's lover. We have a film here that crosses genres, and it's filled to the brim with compelling plot and fascinating characters. It's exquisitely shot and acted and laid out, and I absolutely love this film. I remember showing it to Sam when she was about 10, and her falling in love with it as well. Nikki loves it. I don't know anyone who has seen it that doesn't. So, if you are someone out there listening right now and you haven't seen this film, I'm not only recommending to give it a watch, I'm encouraging, cajoling, pressuring, see this movie. Enter Harry Lime's post-war Vienna hellscape and let yourself be endlessly entertained by a film with the script, the performances, the camera work, and the overall direction to reward you time and time again. Watch this film. You're up.
Okay, so my pros. 1. The chase scene. This is honestly one of my favorite parts in this entire film. The majority of the film is kinda slow, but then the end goes absolutely nuts. The chase down the sewers is insane. There's police everywhere. Holly is after Harry. A cop gets shot. The whole sequence of events is one of those hold your breath while sitting on the edge of your seat kind of moments. I also absolutely love the echo in the tunnels. With voices and shouts getting jumbled together, the loud, echoing gunshots, the sound of footsteps. Full body tingles. It's so stressful and exciting. 2. The final shot. The visual of Holly just standing there waiting while Anna walks down the road and eventually just walks straight by without even looking at him. It's so good. It's slow and kind of drawn out, and you just know what's going to happen, but you wait for it anyway. It's such a beautiful shot with the camera angle directly down the street. It's the perfect end to the film, and I couldn't imagine it going any other way. 3. Orson Welles. Oh my god, I love him so much. He is so good in everything I've ever seen him in. He just has such a strong presence on screen. It's captivating, and I just can't look away. He's so intense, and every little action or mannerism is meaningful with him. I mean, he really only had one scene with dialogue in this film, and he stole the scene, heck, the whole movie, from Joseph Cotten. I still can't get over the little smirk he gives when it's revealed that Harry Lime is still alive. It kills me every time. You don't even need to see Holly's reaction. Just looking at that smug little face in the shadows, you know that's Harry Lime. Orson Welles has always been and will always be one of my favorite actors. Now my cons. 1. The music. Okay, so I liked it. It was nice. I loved it even. It was beautiful. The zither was amazing. But it just did not feel right with the film. It was fine for the beginning, but when Holly finds out his friend is dead, that upbeat music immediately feels out of place. And it feels the same way for the rest of the movie. The music seems almost too cheerful for the mood of the film. The contrast honestly kind of distracted me at some points, when there would be this really intense scene happening, and then there would just be this pretty little music in the background. And that's it. That's all I could do. I'm not entirely sure if it's because I couldn't, or if I just wouldn't find 2 more cons, but that was the only criticism I could make. This is such an incredible movie. I mean, come on, it's a classic. I can hardly put into words how wonderful this film truly is, because it's not just objectively amazing, it's also an all-time favorite of mine. I will forever love this movie, and no matter what, I will stop whatever I'm doing at the drop of a hat to sit down and watch it. The Third Man definitely has a special place in my heart, but I'll try not to be too biased when I say that if you are even remotely a fan of film in general, then you need to give this one a watch at least once.
Yeah. And with that, we come almost to the end of another episode. And at this point, it's fair to say, no big surprise, we have an overwhelming watch recommendation for The Third Man.
Do you love this film? Definitely give us a message and tell us how much you love this film. Because you probably love this film.
Almost certainly. So we have one final thing to do to sign off our first anniversary show just right.
That's right. We have some really special shoutouts we want to make.
So one of the unexpected side benefits of the show is the people we have met and the friends we've made along the way. People who have shared their passions for films or podcasting with us.
Maybe this has led to some collaborations, or just a perfect little bit of praise arriving right when we needed it. It all adds up.
It sure does. So if we were going to talk about everyone, we'd be here all day. But we want to give a few special shoutouts and acknowledgments.
So our first one goes out to Mallory Jacobson and the Movie Lovers podcast that she hosts with her partner Jonah. Their podcasts and social media is fantastic, and we really enjoyed working with Mallory on episode 10 and 20 last year. We'd love to do a proper collaboration with them at some point, so we're really hoping that happens. Give them a listen wherever you get your podcast. Movie Lovers.
Next is PK Kesterton and his stellar show Above and Beyond, which is a history podcast that looks at instances of incredible heroism. We collaborated with PK on episode 17, To Hell and Back, and we appeared on each other's shows talking about the incredible exploits of Audie Murphy. And what's really cool is that episode has done super well for us, being our second most listened to episode ever. He's a swell guy with a great show, and it's really had an impact on our listenership for sure. So definitely go give him some love.
Oh, I get the big one. What can you say about Land of the Creeps? It's a podcast, but also like this incredible social network of podcasters and enthusiasts. A lot of people that listen to our show mention being referred to us by one of the creeps, so that's pretty cool. Bill Van Vagel and Dave Becker in particular have been great friends to the show, with Bill turning up on episodes 10 and 20, and Dave doing cold opens for several episodes as well. Support from established top-end podcasters like this was a big shot in the arm for us in the early days, and we look forward to many more collaborations and conversations in the months ahead.
And one last shout out, a special one to special fans and listeners. I mean, you're all special, of course, but just some stand out in our mind. Our fans and listeners, folks like Robin, or Joel, and Chris over in Spain who loves Burt Lancaster, and Nikki down in West Virginia who turned us on to It Happened on Fifth Avenue. That's as opposed to our Nikki, without whom we could not do the show at all. No matter where in the world you are, we are connected by our love for these films. There's value in that, and thank you for sharing your passions with us, and for letting us bring voice to what you hold dear.
And that's it. Year 1 down.
Pretty amazing. Way to go, kid.
Yeah, you too.
So as mentioned, we are dropping to bi-weekly, so we will be back on August 18th with our next episode, something light, something fun.
Sounds perfect. So until then, be sure to watch more movies.
And spread the word about our show. We're not a secret, and you don't have to keep us all to yourselves.
So tell your friends.
Tell your enemies.
You never know. They might like selling watered-down penicillin to sick children as much as you do.
Oh, I really hope they don't.
Yeah, that's actually monstrous. Maybe they might like selling out their crooked friend to the cops as much as you do.
Maybe even more. For Sam the Sidekick, I'm Derek, and I love old movies. Additional research for I Love Old Movies, the podcast, is done by Nikki Weatherden. Audio clips come from freefx.co.uk. Images are used through the provisions of fair use, and our theme song, Burning Bridges, is by The Crocs.